when I stumbled upon Electrical Longboard, right? Because Electrical Longboard, even though it's kind of obtuse and mysterious, and when I entered the way most people did, which is I typed in the chat, "Hey, you're a bot." And then all these people responded, "No, we're human." And I was like, "Whoa, who are all these people? What's going on?" And it instantly captured my attention. And I now love watching other people go through that same initiation, right? Where they come into the chat. But I wanted to spend some time today talking about Electrical Longboard as a community, as a network, as an open university. Partly because I have a certain gratitude towards the network and the community, because I learn so much there every single day. But also because I kind of feel that ELB and the whole sort of network of people who have come around it have invented something brilliant. And it's something that I think either itself is going to grow or other people are going to replicate. Because as a community support structure, as a resource to help small streamers who aspire to affiliate or who aspire to, developing an audience, even a career, it strikes me that Electrical Longboard as a network, as a community, really enables that. And I said at the start of the show that part of the reason I asked you, Zesty, and Daddy to be correspondents on this episode is I both witness and observe you guys being fantastic community organizers and community animators in terms of how you really help both new members feel welcome and help everyone in the community feel as if we're a community, as if we're a network. So I kind of, before we get into kind of what is Electrical Longboard and how you guys sort of see it, I'm curious to hear your origin story, right? How did you encounter Electrical Longboard? Sort of what brought you to the network first? I don't know, Zesty or Daddy, which one of you, has an earlier discovery date or an earlier stumble upon date. So Zesty, I may falsely assume it was you. So either way, I'm curious to hear, what's your Electrical Longboard? How did you find yourself in that magical space and time?
Well, for the longest time, even I'll admit, I totally thought this dude was a bot. I totally did. Yeah, I feel completely bad about it. I'd be streaming and I see all these names and I'm like, wow, I'm totally new. Who are these people? It must be something that Twitch put together. I don't know. So then I found out it's just this bot guy, whatever, bots. Like, okay, leave it alone. Then quite recently I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find out what the heck this is. And so I went into one of the channels. I'm like, okay, this is some random Zoom call or whatever. Are these people even real? Then I decided to chat and said, hey, who are you? And then EOB said, hey, how you doing? I'm like, holy crap, you're real.
Santa Claus is real.
Yeah. And then I just jumped immediately into his community, and he's been so welcoming and supportive in his entire crew, like Business Daddy. Just completely welcoming and enjoyable. I spend a lot of my time on Twitch there. So
right on. Yeah. Daddy, what's your ELB origin story?
So I'm gonna be honest. I came into Twitch with complete mercenary intentions. I am not a gamer. As well, if
gamer
we're being
or
honest,
not.
Yeah. But so I was not. I basically had taken a pause between my childhood and my late 20s of being playing gaming. Got into it. Was aware peripherally of the concept of chatbots, but was very naive in Twitch. I was like, oh, this real person is in my chat every time I stream. I should check them out. Kind of ignorant and naive of how you're able to lurk chats with scripts. Like that's a totally allowable thing to do as long as you don't count as a viewer. But I honestly was I stumbled upon them while they were on a Discord call. They were not hosting another channel. It just seemed like a nice place to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't initially aware of their goal of helping small streamers. I think at the time they were doing a fundraiser for the Gates Foundation. But I basically was just like, I've been in pandemic for, however many months. It was November at that point, so like quite a while. I had just had a big breakup. I had been laid off. I was working from home sporadically. I was just like, you know what? This community seems like it's filling a void that is not safe to fill otherwise. I can't hang out with my friends in real life. I can't do any of those things. And then I kind of took on other roles within the community, having spent so much time there, basically. Got on board, so to speak.
Well, and it is remarkable, to Zesty's point, how quickly one feels welcome in that community, and how quickly one feels not just enveloped by the vibe, but enveloped by the affection, right? The I love you, right? There really is a positive sense. But at the same time, what struck me is the knowledge that is in that network and the generosity of that knowledge, in that everybody is just sharing what they learn as they learn it. And, it's that kind of supportive environment that my first thought is like, why is Twitch not paying ELB to run this? Right? Like he's like, the community is enabling success on the platform in a way that the platform should be supporting and subsidizing. Now, to your point, Business Daddy, about the chat infrastructure, when I researched this, I recognized that Twitch is using IRC, Internet Relay Chat, as the sort of basis of their chat. And it's an open source protocol. So it lends itself to being able to project yourself, to use the astral projection of, being in all sorts of places at once. And
absolutely.
And I think the whole, bot or not, or the whole, is it a human, is something that I almost feel that's part of what we're doing here today. Because I want to take this segment and put it onto YouTube so that when people Google electrical longboard, they find this discussion. Because there's two kind of controversial bits that I want to address. And, one of them is, you mentioned earlier, Daddy, twitchinsights.net.
Yes.
And if you look at twitchinsights.net, it does list electrical longboard as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th place. That ELB is currently the 8th highest ranked astral projection on Twitch. To which
he's also position 2 through 7 if we're being accurate.
Okay, right. I forgot that. I remembered when I first did it, I Googled the other players, and all roads lead to ELB. So this is a diversified. Now, the larger question is whether we can get ELB and Commander Root on this show to give us an open lesson in bot authorship. Because right?
Commander Root, maybe.
Well, because, Business Daddy, you've been joking about how you're going to learn how to write bots. I know Merlatron is interested in writing bots. I think we should do like an open class in bot authorship. And I'd be able to claim that we've got all of the top 10 on Twitch as our teachers, and Billy could have a different scene with a different snap filter for each of these different, bot identities. Or
well, as far as I'm aware, apparently Commander Root is the person who wrote the original script for lurking on Twitch, and I think it is open source. I think it's publicly available for free. So really, that takes care of a lot of work as far as developing is concerned. But I apparently that was like one of the big inspirations for Electrical Longboard deciding to use that tool, is Commander Root having set the stage to do so.
Now, the other controversy, and I don't want to play the clip, but Twitch had an award last year for the most raids of any channel, and Electrical Longboard won the award for the most raids ever. And then all these jerks on Twitch started getting upset because they were like, but you've awarded it to a bot, which is categorically not the case, right?
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
not
not
only. Sorry, go ahead. I'm talking.
Well, I was gonna say it's not the case, but I don't blame them for thinking that at all. Having never been to the channel.
But I do. You know, the same way that I blame anti-maskers for not educating themselves as to why masks work, you know, I will still blame Twitch users for not educating themselves that a bot is a tool that you can legitimately use as part of your streaming enterprise. And if you use that bot in an effective way, especially to promote other people, more power to you. Right?
Yeah.
And that, again, if we bring it to the other part of the conversation, I'd like to hear your thoughts on, is the idea of ELB as a promoter, right? And the idea that streamers need promotion. And there's a role to have, you know, not just an individual help promote you, but a community to help promote you. Because in the last couple of weeks, I've seen the ELB network rally to help a streamer reach affiliate. Or, you know, rally to help a streamer reach a new goal. And it's that type of collective action that just makes me go, wow, like imagine the potential when you have sort of streamers supporting each other. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I was joking about early when I joined the channel was the potential to organize streamers to demand more from the platform. The sheer numbers alone make that a daunting task, but and also the fact that a lot of affiliated streamers are minors who might not be aware of, you know, the fact that 50-50 cut is kind of no offense to the big business daddy in the sky, but kind of bullshit. I've never seen 115% for a management cut, and even that's pretty high. Partners, I think at best can hope for a 70-30 split. But Twitch is making money hand over fist, and there's no reason why they can't give us more. They're under the umbrella of one of the most profitable companies in human history.
And that's just it, right? There's got to be a union, right? There needs to be a guild. There needs to be a way in which streamers can organize. Now, Zesty, I've often seen you in ELB really organize support and encourage some of the other streamers. You know, there used to be this phrase called the long tail, right? And the long tail sort of described how on any social platform, on any digital marketplace, you got a few kind of super celebrities, super influencers at the top, and everybody else is in the long tail, kind of struggling to get an audience, struggling to get by. So I'm curious, Zesty, you know, what are your thoughts on the type of role that a community like ELB can play to support a small streamer? And I mean that both in your case as someone who I would assume has benefited from being part of the community, but also the way in which I often see you generously helping others out in terms of both encouragement and connecting them into the community as a whole.
Well, a lot of it for me, I mean, I'm big on paying it forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when I first started, I had the same people saying, "Hey, you can do this, rock it, get out there and grind, you'll make it." And I want to pass it along and help other people grow as well. It fills my heart with joy to see other people succeed the way I currently am. They're like, "Oh, I want to make it feel it so bad, but the grind is hard. I feel like quitting." I'm like, don't quit.
Yeah,
I'll come watch you. I'll hang out. It's cool. So
the support makes it an attainable goal. Whereas, you know, if you're acting as though you're an island as an individual, it really is. It seems insurmountable unless you're bringing a following from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, and I also, you know, not to get too emotional, but I think there's something to be said about the vulnerability, right? And the affection that permeates the ELB network. I think really fosters a kind of it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be figuring it out as you go along. You know, for
Yeah.
years I kept talking about doing a podcast. For years I kept talking about doing an internet show. And I would get so close to launch and then at launch have like a million doubts or a million self-criticisms. But ELB kind of liberated me of that. Like in watching that
Yeah.
community and being part of that community, I was like, well, whatever. Like it's the effort. Like let's just have fun. And that's liberated me so much in terms of being a creator that's part of, to your point, Zesty, why I want to pay it forward and why I want to sort of, find ways to give back and expand and scale up this kind of infrastructure, both so that it can accommodate streamers, the way that raids are often out of stock, but also so that the numbers can grow, so our power, our negotiating ability will grow, and we could start, throwing some demands against the platform as a whole. Now, Stro, I want to bring you into the conversation. And, my agenda, Stro, for having you on the show today is both to infect you with the joie de streaming that I have been infected by, but also to to get you involved in ELB and get you familiar with it. So as a media professional, as an artist, do you want to offer a few insights or comments as to why cooperation, why collaboration, why, no creator can make it on their own, but instead the more the merrier when it comes to, many hands making for a lighter load?
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely infected. I think it's, I want to know how I get on this. Because I know it does take a community, right? And the stronger your community is, the more support you have. It sounds perfect. I don't know how it's been over my head. You did mention it in one of your other streams, and I looked it up, and I just haven't got a moment to get into it. But yes, I want to, I got into broadcasting because I am a creator and I want to be a part of a community, right? I don't want, I know we're not islands, right? So, I'm in. You've infected me. It's we're germinating the seed right now. I'm definitely in, but because it is so important, because it is very much life to figure it out as you go along, and when you have people that you can actually, that aren't holding on to stuff and are there, then be back and forth, right? You can learn as a teacher and you can learn as a student, obviously, right? So this sounds amazing. I want to know more, actually. I want to know more about Electrical Longboard, because I want to start streaming too. I have a podcast, but I'm like, I would like to figure out how to broadcast with the full extent of what's available now.
Well, and that's part of what we'll get to in our second last segment on Showcase, of looking at some channels that influence us. But, I think it is also worth pointing out or looking at Electrical Longboard. Now, our friends at Electrical Longboard, since we're talking about them, just rated us. So we've literally got a bit of a meta view here. Because I was going to show the Electrical Longboard channel, although the Electrical Longboard channel just rated me back to my own channel.
It's like a hall of mirrors.
Yeah, so we're getting a little meta view here. But I clicked back to the main ELB channel, and so you can see what Zesty was describing, where when you join, it almost looks like you're in a Zoom call, where it's actually a Discord call. And so you see us and me pointing to me, pointing to me, pointing to me, as an ad infinite loop of us talking about Electrical Longboard while we're on Electrical Longboard, showing Electrical Longboard. But there's something to be said about, having a user interface, having a way to describe it and expose what we're talking about. But my purpose of doing this segment today was to add to the knowledge base, to add to the mythology of Electrical Longboard. I mean, I started with that MetaViews article I wrote a while ago. I'm going to post this segment onto YouTube so that when people Google Electrical Longboard, they find this video. But I kind of feel that one of the things we can do moving forward is wrap electrical longboard in other places and grow the community and nurture the community so that it retains some of the values, but also the collectivism, the cooperation that I think many of us see in terms of its potential. And I'm curious, any final thoughts, Daddy or Zesty, in terms of the future of ELB and some of your hopes or dreams for what you think the community or network could become?
Go ahead.
BD?
Please. After you.
I'm thinking.
Okay. I was gonna say. I think what we've so yes, it's a community. Yes, it's its own powerhouse. Yes, it's partially automated and self-sustaining. I think, but also it's run by a person. Like Electrical Longboard is a human person who has obligations, and the Everstream has been an incredibly ambitious project. But I think what we've learned through the duration of the Everstream, I came on board maybe like a month after it started, is that whether or not there's someone actually at the wheel, the channel still has a life of its own. So I think that creates an enormous amount of potential. But I also I'm incredibly suspicious of, again, like full automation and just hoping it works out with that. Like I'm a worrywart, and I see those potential problems cropping up usually well in advance.
Yeah.
So I think having a robust moderation team, which Electrical Longboard already does have, is also important. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of possibilities.
Zesty?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing business did.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll add my 2 cents to that I think a clear sense of structure, like even if there was just a list of the moderators, so that you knew who the deputies were, and that way, both so that Billy felt that it wasn't just on his shoulders, and that he could take a day off, a week off, a month off, and know that there's people who care, who are there to sort of support it. And that's where I agree with you, Daddy. I think full automation, while tempting, it negates the fact that it's the love. It's Billy's love. It's everybody's love that really makes that network powerful. And as I'm saying, knowledge rich in terms of the learning that happens there. There is a role for automation. I am serious in that. I think we should organize some, bot masterclass here as a stream where we openly share that knowledge. But I think moving forward, Zesty's point about paying it forward is another ethic that I'd like to see kind of, explicitly said. This is the expectation. There's lots of benefits that come from being part of ELB, but there's responsibilities, and one of that responsibilities is paying it forward and supporting the community as a whole. So, I mean, I wanted to do this segment partly because I'm going to put this up on YouTube as a way for people to learn more about ELB. But I also did it as a kind of setup for our next segment, which is to talk about small streamers in general, right? Because, I feel pretty privileged to be part of ELB. I feel fortunate that, I Googled those bots who were lurking in my chat channel. But I've also done research as to some of the other small streamer communities and networks that are out there. And I don't know if you guys have looked at them. There's a different type. Some are fully automated. Some are just Discord servers. And some are just kind of, follow for follow rackets, right? They're kind of illicit in terms of they're in violation of the terms of service, but they're surviving because there's a demand, right? Because there's people who are interested in that stuff. So I'm curious to hear, from both of you, and Stro, I'll bring you in also to talk about what you would want in terms of the supports as a small streamer. But I'm curious if either of you guys have encountered other small streamer networks or, the types of resources that are out there. Because while I do think it's sparse, and while I do think that Electrical Longboard is kind of the most relevant, the most tangible, the most effective that's out there, I, as a researcher, still like to look at all of them. So I'm curious to start with you two and whether you've encountered any yourself.
Okay. Well, as you said, that ELB is probably the most tangible, the most readily out there for everyone. Of course, small streamers will have their own little circle that'd be like, oh, go follow this person, go follow this person. But it's mostly self-contained in a small, maybe 10 streamer type of thing. Of course, that grows from there and there and there, but ELB is widespread. Anybody can come in, whether you just started that day and need help. You found us by, I don't know, some weird means you Googled us or something like you're saying. To the person who, I don't know, have many followers, but they just can't seem to get over that hump of getting affiliate because the grind, it might be too much for them. So we help small streamers in that aspect. And I love how it's set up that we don't, or that Billy doesn't raid over 75 viewers, because then that would put them into partnership territory. And that's not really our goal, his goal. So,
Daddy?
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think I've had a similar observation where, like, what I've noticed in other streamers that have, you know, consistent repeat participants in chat and have regulars and have a community, is that it's kind of like cafeteria tables, where it's not like super clicky. It's not like there is an overlap, but, you know, it's like, oh, this is my primary group of streamers that I interact with and raid and support and shout out, and there's, you know, a fuzzy, like, Gaussian, like, overlap between those islands of community. But ELPs is more like, I don't know, like a cocktail party where everyone's just kind of bumping into each other and mingling, and some people come in and make a scene and yell and they get escorted out. But you know, it feels a lot more open. Yes.
That's a great point, because I did find, I mean, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to shame them, but I have explored a number of other small streamer networks. And to your point, I found them very cliquish, in many cases, very hostile to newcomers, right? Really restrictive to newcomers. And most of them have no concept of quality versus quantity, right? They're all focused on quantity, right? Numbers. I want numbers. But they're not thinking about a quality audience, about, you know, an emotional connection with the audience, so that they come back. And they're not just someone who helps you boost your follower count, but they become part of your community. They support you as a streamer and a creator. And I feel that that's lost on almost all the small streaming communities out there, versus at ELB, there's much more of a conscious approach to foster that and create that. Although there is still a tension between those of us who want quality followers and some of the people who stumble in and either play the F4F game or, you know, don't care who you are. They just kind of want the numbers or want the stats. Any comments on how to foster or how to really engender a culture that emphasizes that quality over quantity?
Honestly, just leading by example is super critical, I think, in that way. Because, I mean, like, if you're a regular on the channel for long enough, you end up being part of the show, and you're visible, you know, as much as you'd like to be. And I think just demonstrating generous behavior is great. I'm a hypocrite in that way because I do self-promote and self-raid from time to time, and I try to be honest about that because I, you know, don't like to be full of shit. But also, there is a genuine, like, I do feel a genuine investment in other success when they come to the stream asking for help. Like, I genuinely want to provide whatever mentorship or just companionship or cheerleading that I can.
Yeah. And let me also just point out that I think your point about role modeling applies to self-promotion too, right? Because
Yeah.
self-promotion is a necessary part of being a creator. I am very uncomfortable with it because I have self-loathing tendencies. But that's where you have to learn from other people as to how they have tasteful self-promotion or inclusive self-promotion, that they're promoting other people as well as themselves. That's something I struggle with, but again, I think it's important to have a community that helps enable that. Now,
sure.
Stro, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, again, as a novice, as someone coming new to streaming, but who has a tremendous professional experience as a creator. What are the kinds of, support structures? What are the kinds of things that you look for that give you the courage, that give you the confidence to be able to create and put yourself out there?
Well, and the truth is, I'm less than novice. I'm like, today is day one. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm actually
This is your hazing.
This is this is right. This is making me think. Okay, well, because I do want to stream. I've been thinking about how do I get involved, because I have become more involved with gaming since we got for the first time in over years we do gaming console, right? Like, I'm on PS5 now, and I'm playing FIFA again, and it's like I want to be part of that community, because I think that there's value in that, especially when we're most of the time at home during the pandemic. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where to start. So to know that I can start somewhere and there's a community there, that's amazing, right? That's exactly what I need. I need somebody to tell me what you guys are telling me right now. Is like, you need to get on board with community to kind of to be a part of something bigger, because it's not like you can't broadcast into the ether, right? But it does. I think it has to land somewhere. It has to bounce back and show yourself to yourself a little bit. And I think that's how we're going to connect in this century anyways, right? Yeah. It's the connections we make that are real and are engaging in a two-way kind of, or in a manifold way, right? Yeah. This is great.
I used to have this saying: nobody should compute alone, right? Nobody should use their computer alone, because there's no need. You can always be connected to other people. You can always be helping and being helped by other people. Now, before we close off this topic on small streamers, I just, wanted to share what came up on a quick Google. This was 15 best communities for new streamers and small streamers. And granted, this is pre-pandemic, so it's pretty old, but it's still what shows up at the top of Google, and it's kind of useless. Like, most of the stuff here I've checked out. The Facebook groups are useless. The subreddits, like the Twitch subreddit in general, is informative, but it's not a community. You're not going to get support from it. The small streamer subreddit's a little bit, but Reddit doesn't always have support you want. Gaming Careers has some knowledge. Alpha Gaming, no. Small streamer community, not so much. But it bothers me that ELB's not listed there, right? It bothers me, and I sort of feel this is one area that we can collectively give back, is to help articulate and frame ELB not as a bot, right? But as a center of excellence, as, a community, as a network, as an open knowledge community, an open support community. I don't have the right words, and it's certainly not for us as individuals to decide, because it's as the collective. It's how everyone chooses to use language and how they describe it. But this is me as a propagandist using my ability as a streamer to influence the debate in a way that puts ELB to get the greater respect and recognition that I feel that the community deserves. Stro, you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, I have a question, right? Because I, as a complete newbie, again, I'm not, I'm not kidding when I say this. I don't know what you guys are talking about, and I'm deducting that this is a community for streamers, right? So if I sign on to Twitch, and then I want to be seen and have people to interact with and talk to, I search up Electrical Longboard.
Correct.
And say, I want to join. Is that how it works?
Just follow the channel and then just start chatting in the chat. And Zesty or someone like Daddy may jump in and say, hey, Stro 8000, welcome. and then they'll trigger a command that says a little bit of what's going on. But to your point, Stro, because the three of us, Daddy Zesty and I, we totally took this for granted, so we didn't even mention it. So it's worth saying there is a currency, a kind of social currency that you earn from participating in the chat and for participating in raids. And then you can spend that currency to support other streamers or to support yourself as a way of participating. And that's what Daddy meant by the automation. That there's a certain automation that enables that rating and enables shout outs and enables support. And that in and of itself is fascinating and worth watching in terms of how it plays out. And then there's like the secret knowledge of the ELB embedded page, which provides a kind of secret interface to the way the channel works. So it's all a kind of through the looking glass, right? It's this magical world on Twitch where you learn about Twitch and learn about streaming. Again, as a news show, we believe in propaganda. And that's really what we're creating here on This Week in Twitch. And today's episode was an exercise in manufacturing ELB propaganda. But I say this as a segue into our second last